Hello everybody, welcome to OriginalContentHD and welcome to another Jumputi Heroes video. Today we're going to be discussing some of the things I might like to see in the roadmap to the 6th anniversary. For those that don't know, the 5.5 anniversary is going to be held starting from the 15th of October. That's not the actual date of the anniversary. The actual date is like the 28th of September. But the devs had some problems and blah, blah, blah. It's being held from the 15th. And we will be having a live stream on the 15th that will reveal the characters and some of the events and campaigns and stuff. And also a roadmap to the 6th anniversary. Some of the content we can expect to see in the lead up to the 6th anniversary, during the 6th anniversary, and a little bit after the 6th anniversary. 6th anniversary, of course, being on the 28th of March. Now, I'm trying to get this video uploaded on the 10th because I believe on the 11th it is very likely that at least the content of the 5.5 anniversary event in terms of characters could have leaked by that point, just from Weekly Shonen Jump scans coming out early. I cannot see a world where Jumputi is holding an event from the 15th and there is a new issue of Weekly Shonen Jump on the 16th and they just don't have anything for that. I can't really see there not being an advert, and if there is an advert, then it will leak and we'll know about it relatively soon. That shouldn't affect what appears in the roadmap, but obviously if I've seen what's already in the anniversary, that might affect what I think will come in the later months, and I kind of wanted to go into this blind. So let's start off with October. This is a bit weird because historically, you know, the anniversary would have started at the end of September, and then the first half of October would have been the anniversary. But in this case, we already know October's first half was the Anniversary Eve event, which has had mixed reviews so far. Not technically over yet, but there wasn't a lot to it, and there wasn't a lot to the last event, so people have not been particularly happy, but rewards have been good. I mean, I guess that's been a big thing this year. The rewards have improved. The content, maybe not. But following that is obviously from the 15th, the 5.5 anniversary event. As of now, we don't know anything about the content of that. I discussed in a previous video some of the things we might see and some of the little bits of information they have given us. But so far, they are heavily suggesting Luffy, but beyond that, they haven't given us anything. So we'll see. We shall see. Campaigns, obviously, the 5.5 anniversary will have many, many, many campaigns involved in it, but also they did say there will be a new game mode. What exactly that new game mode entails, we're again not too sure. They did sort of suggest it was endgame style content, maybe similar to like a training forest in One Piece Treasure Cruise or something like that. But as we don't have any details of it yet, and in the past they have promised more difficult content and either failed to deliver in any meaningful way, or made it content that kind of requires one specific character that they literally released during that event until a little bit later when, you know, units improved and stuff. I'm hoping they've got it right this time, but I'm not filled with confidence. I'm happy for more content though. For them to try something new, that I am happy for. I'm hoping there's going to be a new hidden potential batch that is not one character. So far we know that there's going to be a level 15 update or a batch of updates for the anniversary event, and the only one they've announced so far is Sephiria Arcs from Black Cat. That doesn't necessarily suggest any of the content related to the anniversary itself, because quite often when buffs have happened, it'll be some characters that are related, some characters that are not related. But there is also a case where if it's an ensemble event, none of the characters will be related. It's just we decided to give these characters buffs. So you kind of have to decide for yourself whether the buffs actually indicate anything. Would be cool to get a Black Cat limited or some Black Cat content, but I'm not confident that that's the case. And I'm hoping that we do get a set of hidden potential units that are like, I mean, the last few, it's just been, well, we got Ukanda, and then a month later we got Rock Lee. And it's like, okay, cool, but do you know how many old hero grade units there are that could do with a buff, and it'd be cool if they did have a buff? Well, even event units, we know they can do hidden potential event units, and I did in my previous video state I would love to see them do another equivalent of that Goku we got for the 5th anniversary, where it's a free unit that is introduced with their own hidden potential system. But even if it was just like 5 hidden potential, like old standard gacha units, maybe protagonists from series that haven't had a lot of content or something like that, that would be swell. And then we have our new type related ability, which again, they've given us more information than I expected, but it's still a little bit vague. Something to do with types where it doesn't really matter what type the unit is, or it's not specifically that they are a rainbow unit. It's not a new type, but it might be an ability that allows them to act as if they were a rainbow unit or something like that. In my head, they're basically saying that this new unit, which we're assuming is Gear 5 Luffy, is going to be a little bit like way back in the day, if you played Dokkan, when they released the red, the STR Super Saiyan Gogeta. That unit sort of transcended type. He was a red unit, yes, but his abilities essentially allowed you to make all different kinds of teams, and he was very strong, and it was just a very cool unit. We don't really have leader skills in this game, but in terms of improving team synergy or just being strong enough that team synergy doesn't matter or something along those lines, I'm not too sure how it's going to work, but we know he's going to be strong regardless. And obviously I've mentioned the new game mode there as well. We would like to see that be good. Moving on to November, because November is actually a month we sort of know about. They announced that these two series, Kuroko no Basket and Skit Dance, were supposed to be getting feature festivals here in November. There has been a change to the schedule that happened prior to this that led to the event before Kuroko no Basket, which was supposed to be the Matsui Sensei Feature Festival. That got moved to the start of October and got rebranded as the 5.5 anniversary event. And whether content got cut from that or not, we don't really know. But whether all this changing stuff around, and I mean, they've done it quite a lot this year, whether all of that has affected these two events, we don't know, especially because they told us these events would be in November a long time ago. It's very, very possible that they have changed the schedule, but assuming that they haven't, there you go. What else can we expect to see in November? Well, last year, you may remember, we had Black Friday, and they used that as an excuse to release a seasonal limited. They actually released, I think, 2 limiteds during this period that were imported from the Taiwan server. They released Karuto near the start of November, I believe, as a counter to one of the new super dimensional battle stages. And then for Black Friday, they released the Toguro brothers, and in their case, they were a seasonal. And I have no doubt that they will do that again. Who they would pick for that, I'm not too sure, but I think they will do it again, especially because with Kuroko no Basket, could maybe have 2 limits. Maybe. There's definitely options for Kuroko no Basket you can make into 2 limits. For Skit Dance, I don't necessarily see them giving Skit Dance 2 limits. I think only 1, and I think it would make sense for them to release a Black Friday limit alongside that. While these 2 series are perfectly popular in their own right, there's no like hypebeast series featured during this month, so they will take that opportunity to introduce something. These units here are units that have not been ported over from the Taiwan server yet. There are some other cases. The only ones I can think of that are actual units that we haven't received in some capacity are the surplus Saints from Saint Seiya. I don't think we will get them on the Japan server, but it is in theory possible that they could come, or that they could be featured as like costumes or something. I don't know. But these four, I believe, are the most important. I think, unless I'm forgetting somebody, these are the only straight up characters that have not been ported over. We've got the Kakashi, both eyes Kakashi, Susanoo Kakashi. We have the Gon, who was released for Ging on the Taiwan server and then just not released on the Japan server. We have the Byakuya they got recently, and we have Aldebaran from Saint Seiya. I think all of these units will be introduced in some capacity as quickly as possible. Now, whether that's all right here or whether that's a little bit here, a little bit there, I think they're going to do that. And the reason is because it seems like they are trying to synchronize the servers. We don't know that for sure, but they did announce that the 5.5 anniversary event is going to be held at the same time on both servers. And in order to get to that point, the Taiwan server has sped up drastically in terms of trying to catch up to us. And they're essentially going to be like a space of 1 or 2 days off of the Japan server, to the point where we could proceed onwards from the anniversary, receiving the events on the same day or within a few days of each other for every event. Which I think would be wise, because I think the whole, like, this is a Taiwan exclusive, this is a Japan exclusive thing, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. There might be a reasoning behind it, but I don't know. I think it's resulted in some units being downgraded and some units maybe not getting the attention they should have. I know mostly the reason for that was JoJo, and there's still a big question mark around JoJo, because if the servers are synchronized, JoJo is out of the picture from this point onwards, and I think a lot of people would not like that. So I don't know what the end result is, but assuming that they are synchronizing the servers, these 4 units they will want to get out as soon as possible. I think there's room for at least one of the limiteds here for Black Friday, but they could squeeze in 2 if they wanted to. I don't know how they're going to introduce the event units, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. They're event units. You can introduce them however you please. Then the My Ship update. We were promised this earlier, and we didn't receive it. And to be honest, from my perspective, I kind of wish they would just give up on the My Ship update. Like, just go in there, change the max value so it goes up to like My Ship level 100, so people keep earning rewards up until 100, and then that's it. That is the end of the My Ship update as a whole. That is the end of the My Ship content. We move on to other updates, because from the moment they announced it up until this very moment now, and probably onwards into the future, I do not understand this update. I don't know what purpose it serves beyond giving rewards, which they could have just added more max luck rewards, which people were asking for, but instead they worked on this whole other update for this ship. Everybody has the same ship once they reach a certain level, so there's no individuality there except for the characters you put there, which you can just change that on the home screen. You didn't even need the ship for that. Like, there's no feeling of actual progression. There's no feeling of actual reward beyond the rewards themselves, which, again, could have just been max luck rewards. And for me, it was just a massive waste of time and money. And I don't really want them to waste more time and money on it. I want them to focus on actual good content updates. If the amount of time they spent working on that, they spent working on new units and new stages, that would have been much better. They didn't. And we went through a long period where the game was kind of in the mud, and I can't help but feel a lot of that was due to the My Ship update, because we were getting events that went on a little bit too long and we didn't get enough characters, which we're still getting that now, but at least the rewards are better. And at least I'm not looking at every time they announce, oh, we're working on My Ship, here's what it's going to look like, blah blah blah, and I'm not filled with that feeling of, why have you done this? I just want us to move on from it. I want them in November to just drop the update and say it goes up to level 100. There's some rewards tied to that. And that's it. And we're not touching my ship anymore. We're moving on to the next thing. Fingers crossed that that is the case, but I don't think it will be. Moving on to December. Let's start off December with a Dragon Quest feature festival. I have said many times they should do Dragon Quest. They haven't done Dragon Quest many times. And so it's a little bit difficult to keep suggesting it when it seems like the devs have just forgotten about it, or maybe there's some sort of issue. I mean, there were a lot of series that we didn't have issues with before, that got content before, that now suddenly there are issues. And I don't know if that's the case of them working closer with Shueisha, or whether Shueisha has changed the way rights are handled. And so there was some things we had the rights to up until a certain point, and now we don't have them anymore, or we'd have to pay a lot more for them, so they're not paying for them, or I don't know how it works. But what I do know is Dragon Quest has had quite a year. Even if we don't just talk about the anime, which I don't know if it started this year or started last year and carried on into this year. There was the anime, there was like new games, there was loads of discussion about Dragon Quest. And there was even a new manga published, which looked very, very cool. A spin-off about Avon, which it just looked amazing. The artwork was incredible. And where's the Dragon Quest in Jumputi? It doesn't make sense. Dragon Quest is one of the headliners for like every Jump Festa banner. And where's the Dragon Quest? So I've decided to include it in December. I know some people might call that copium. They're probably right. But I think basically from December onwards, you're going to be seeing a lot of that. I'm sorry. I just think Dragon Quest has enough content that you could do a meaty feature festival. The fact that Dai does not have a limited, crazy. There's lots of stuff you can do that we haven't touched. Let's do it. And then second half of December, obviously we have Christmas, and I'm going to discuss in a little bit some of the things we might see from that Christmas event. To be honest, out of all of the like non-feature festival events that, you know, there are more that we'll talk about January through March. This is probably the one that has the least structure. I just put in some series that I felt like we might see. So for the campaigns, Jump Festa 2023, we did have something for Jump Festa last year. It was basically just the announcement of Roboco, who would be coming in January, and not much else. I'm hoping, though, that at least as that was a step forward from previously, where we wouldn't really do much for Jump Festa. Now we're sort of involved, and it seems like we're actually at the table having a discussion with Shueisha about things. I am hoping that we might get something for Jump Festa. In this case, I'm hoping for a limited, and I was trying to think about who works, because it's kind of got to be from a big series. I feel like it's got to be a character that hasn't had a limited already. And I settled on Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter. There are plenty of options, to be fair, but I do think I personally would go for Hisoka. And I think that would be a nice little thing they could do. At Jump Festa, they can go, guys, everyone at Jump Festa, go play Jumputi Heroes right now. We're dropping a banner. It's got Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter. I know you guys love Hunter x Hunter. Get involved. Download the game now. Here's a QR code. Boom. Get a bunch of downloads. Get a bunch of people playing. You can put an advert in Weekly Shonen Jump, an advert in V-Jump. Happy days. And then as for the Christmas event, I've picked an assortment of series that I feel like some of them are either underrepresented or heavily underrepresented, and some of them are not. But Christmas, they always do, so like they did 3 limiteds, I think, the last 2 years. Is that right? Or maybe they only did, I think they did a seasonal limited last year. But regardless, they're going to do a lot of stuff, and I think let's say Dragon Quest gets 1 limited, and let's say Hisoka is a limited for Jump Festa. That's sort of 2 out of what I would imagine is normally. We normally get 4 to 5 each month. And as New Year is probably going to be quite big, probably only 2 from the Christmas event. It would probably be from My Hero Academia and Black Clover. But quite easily you could, now that you've got Hisoka as more of like a hype beast, seasonal, Jump Fest or whatever limited, you could maybe give Black Cat a chance to get a limit, or maybe Cat's Eye, City Hunter, whatever. I just picked some series that I felt like I hadn't represented really anywhere else in this calendar, and some of them I definitely think will get stuff, and some of them I think haven't had enough and should get more. I would love for Train to get a limited, like a standalone Train limited from that last scene in Black Cat. Yeah, crazy. But also the other series there, if you don't know, My Hero Academia, Black Clover, and then there's Black Cat. There's Ginga Nagaraboshi Gin, which is the one with Gin the dog. There's Cat's Eye, and there's City Hunter. So options to work with. That is a very much probably never going to happen type event. But in terms of a seasonal for Christmas, I didn't really know who to go with. Like, we got Mafuyu Sensei from We Never Learn last year, and that really works. So wait, was she last year? No, she wasn't last year. She was on a banner where she was the limited and Lala was featured. Who was it last year? There was no seasonal limited last year, was there? Interesting. So will they do a seasonal this year? I don't know. Maybe they will, and maybe they'll have the seasonal, like the banner with Mafuyu and Lala and some other Christmas units or whatever, and then they can add a new limited to that or something along those lines. I'm trying to remember who it was last year. It was Cascade, it was Kasaki, and there was one other I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, so we could get 3 limiteds, or we could get 2 plus a Jump Festa limit, whatever. The point is, December looking probably better than it actually will when the actual December will come. Moving on to January, I want to start things off with a New Year event, and we'll talk about the New Year event in a bit more detail in just a second. But first of all, I want to reveal the second event, which is me and Roboco. I think it would be great to have a sort of meta style thing in the same way that Kotodaman did, where it's constantly teasing something big's coming, and you can have the interaction of Roboco, like, oh boy, we're gonna get something, and then constantly having Roboco let down from Jump Fest. I would say you could do that for Jump Fest, that you could do that for Christmas, you could do that for New Year, and then finally announce that Roboco is getting a feature festival, and then have Roboco being happy about it, which is Kotodaman. They released Roboco, and then they teased like various things. They announced like multiple collaborations, which obviously Roboco was not a part of any of them. And I think it would just be like a nice little meta thing. I know that the author of Roboco plays Jumputi, enjoys Jumputi, so I know they'd totally be down. They'd probably even do a chapter that would mention Jumputi if we were willing to put that. I say we, if the devs were willing to do that, I think they would 100% be down, and I think that would be really cool. I don't know if Roboco would be considered for a feature festival. I feel like if Sakamoto Days got one, I know it's probably more popular and it's more suited to a feature festival. But even if it's just like a one limited feature festival, there's plenty of content to make into a feature festival, so I would definitely go for it. And then here, Year of the Dragon. Now, Year of the Dragon, if you don't know, Chinese Zodiac year for next year, for 2024, or the lunar year, I don't know what they call it, but basically Chinese New Year, when that comes around, which in February, it will be the Year of the Dragon. But January, Japan will be celebrating the start of the Year of the Dragon, and so January, February, we have 2 versions of the game, one that is celebrating a Chinese calendar, one that is celebrating a Japanese calendar. But if both the games are merged, it becomes a little bit more tricky. So my idea was that we could have, during Roboco, we could immediately start the countdown to the Year of the Dragon, and we could reveal various things, like content that's being worked on, and a new Densetsu / Muso / if they release a new rarity / whatever, And for that, I would probably choose Goku. I think if we're getting a Luffy Densetsu, we should go back to Namek and we should get a Goku Densetsu. I think if you want to pull people into the game, having Goku, Vegito, Roger, and and Gear 5 Luffy, all these like huge names, it will be to the game's benefit, especially when advertising in Weekly Shonen Jump. To in the space of a year have released Namek Goku and released Gear 5 Luffy as top tier units, that will go down well. Now, I will point out, if at any point the devs decide to cover Dragon Ball Super, then they probably wouldn't choose this Goku for a top tier Goku. They would probably choose Battle of the Gods, you know, Super Saiyan God Goku. They might choose Ultra Instinct Goku. They might choose Beerus. Like, there are other options. So I don't necessarily know if they're going to do this. I don't know if they're ever going to touch Dragon Ball Super. I would like some indication if they could. But assuming they don't, which I think is the most likely scenario, assuming that Shueisha don't want them to cover anything that's not in Weekly Shonen Jump, but they don't cover that. They don't cover Dragon Ball Super. They have this as the best option, in my opinion, for a second top tier unit from Dragon Ball. But that's who I would choose. And that would go hard. I want it to be proper. I don't want it like the last Namek Goku, where they just copied and pasted the head from another Super Saiyan whatever Goku. Stupid. Didn't enjoy that. This would be very nice. And then talking about the New Year event, Year of the Dragon, Goku, and that would lead us into February, and there would be an event there that would sort of tie together the New Year in Japan, the New Year in China, or in Taiwan, or rather. We would have a dragon-themed event there. So the campaigns start in January, the actual event in February, maybe Goku drops somewhere in between. But for January, for the Happy New Year event, I have picked a series of gag characters. I picked a group of gag series, I should say, such as Gintama, Dr. Slump, Hentai Kamen, Disastrous Life of Psyche K, High School Kimengumi, and Masaru-san. I think these series, some of them, again, heavily underrepresented. I'm not expecting a lot here. Maybe a limited, but more likely like a standard Gatch unit, even an event unit, something. I think I could see, we got a New Year's seasonal limited last year. I think that could easily be Gintama this year. And then maybe Dr. Slump and Psyche can get limiteds. But, I mean, if any of these series are getting content, I'm pretty happy. There are other gag series that could be included here. I figured last year we did Bobobo. This year, let's have an assortment of other series. I think that works. They do quite often go back to the gag series. You know, we had Lucky Man and Dr. Slump featuring a couple of New Year's events. We had Bobobo last year, followed by a Bobobo feature festival. So there is... and Roboco as well. So I think having January as like a gag month, but we also have that lead up to the big event at the start of February, which I've borrowed a name from another game, Rising Dragon Carnival. I stole it from Dokkan, but basically I want us to focus on Goku, the Year of the Dragon, so dragon series or stuff from series that evolves dragons, so on and so forth. But also just cool characters from big series. I've got the Tower 5th Anniversary here, which will obviously get its own limited. Not sure who that would be, but I have included a selection of series here. Some of these series I would like to see included in the Rising Dragon Carnival. So, I mean, if you know these series, Hunter x Hunter, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Dragon Quest, Dragon Ball, you can see them definitely including, you know, dragon-based characters. I was thinking for Hunter x Hunter, maybe like the Silver and Xenozordic, they'd like ride the dragons down from the sky. That was really cool. And the others speak for themselves. But you might notice, well, Dragon Quest just had a feature festival, and you just include a Hunter x Hunter limited earlier and you got more content from those series. But the devs do that a lot. They work on an amount of characters for a series, and then they maybe add 1-2 more while they've got the person there working out the art style of this series, working out the art style of this manga artist, and they're doing the research for what characters would be good. They often have a little bit extra that they add in later. Not uncommon at all. And so I think if they were already making Hisoka, why not make 1 or 2 more Hunter x Hunter units? If they're already making some Dragon Quest Feature Festival, why not make 1 more character for this? And you could include other series here, obviously, but these were the 4 that came to mind. As for the Tower 5th anniversary, it will be some sort of awesome standalone limited. Preferably a character that has not had a limited yet. But I couldn't really think of one in particular. And then for the second half of February, I've sort of done a Valentine's thing. Normally the Valentine's thing would be like prior to Valentine's Day and then lead into Valentine's Day. I've got it starting after Valentine's Day here because I kind of wanted to balance, you know, traditional Lunar New Year and New Year in Japan. And this was the only way I could really make it work. So this is Naoshi Komi and Taishi Tsutsui. If you're not familiar with these two artists, maybe you are familiar with their series. Nisekoi, We Never Learn, and Magical Patissier Kasaki-chan. These 3 series have all got a decent amount of content in the game. Well, Kasaki-chan not so much, but I'd like to see all of their rosters fleshed out a little bit. This would be an opportunity for Nisekoi to get a limited. It would be an opportunity for We Never Learn to maybe get a second limited. And I think for Kasaki-chan, definitely we could get some more of the roster added in. And just in general, just flesh everything out. I want it to be at the point where we're essentially done with Nisekoi. We're essentially done with We Never Learn, and we're essentially done with Kasaki-chan. Not to say that they have to do it that way, not to say that you couldn't have more in the future, like costumes or variations of characters, but I want the overall roster of each series to essentially be done here. Then moving on to March. I don't even remember why I put in March. Let's have a look. Undead Unluck. What are the chances of this? Basically 0. Look, I don't know why certain series haven't been added to the game. I don't know how they make these decisions. I don't know why Sakamoto Days got added and other series haven't been. But if any series was going to be added suddenly as a feature festival, for me it would either be Undead Unluck or Mission Yozakura Family, assuming that Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen are still off limits or whatever the devs were trying to say in that one stream. So I'd love to see Undead Unluck. It's got an anime going right now. The first episode dropped and it's incredible. That anime has 2 cores, which means most likely the second core will at least be ongoing by the time we reach March. Gives the devs plenty of time to work on the units up until then. Drop a feature festival, include stuff all from season 1. Sounds good to me. The reason I say it's not likely is because the devs just seem to be allergic to new series, but it is what it is. Then in the second half of the month, I've chosen Bastard. I don't know why Bastard doesn't have a feature festival. It doesn't even have a limited. It's got 2 seasons of the new anime to work with in terms of content, and they're just ignoring it. I don't understand, but I think it makes a lot of sense to drop something like this just before the anniversary, because Undead Unluck, you can have that run through the whole month of March, which is what they did with Sakamoto Days. Have it as sort of like a new series being introduced to the game special campaign. And then you can have Bastard just before that, a series which was already in the game, which is deserving of content in its own right. And then if you are seeing Bastard as a sort of concern, like, oh, it's not as popular as One Piece or whatever, that's okay, devs, because Undead Unluck was the first half of the month and it carries on into the second, and about halfway through Bastard you can start teasing the anniversary. It's fine. People will play the game. People enjoy the game. You drop an awesome Dark Schneider Limited, people will go nuts. I would be very happy with that. I think that'd be a nice little march leading into the 6th anniversary. I've given it the subtitle Banquet of Kings just to give an idea of some of the series I wanted to pick. And I've chosen these series here. Yes, some of the same series we always see. I know. But let's be real. They're not doing an anniversary without One Piece. It's never happening. You got to at least have One Piece, maybe a bit of Naruto, maybe a bit of Dragon Ball, maybe a bit of Bleach. It's got to have some of these huge series. And you would have noticed up until this point, I haven't mentioned Demon Slayer. And I don't intend to. These are the lengths we have to go to make a roadmap that doesn't have Demon Slayer in it, because the devs are desperate to include it. They're desperate. So, for me, personally, I felt like this was a pretty good little lineup. Toriko, One Piece, Hinamaru Zumo, Shokugeki no Soma, Naruto, and Bleach. You could obviously include more series there. I didn't have a lot of space to work with, but I would like to see the next top tier unit after this Goku, obviously, be from Toriko. And the reason I chose Toriko is I wanted to choose a series that I felt like had lots of content to work with and could still have like feature festivals and other stuff in the future, but for now is more than worthy of a top tier unit, which I felt like was what they were doing with Hoshinengi, and they released Fuki, and that was awesome. But then they never went back and did more with Hoshinengi. So I'm hoping they will go back and do stuff with it and with Toriko. And I'd like to see a Toriko Densetsu or Muso or whatever. Who it would be, a lot of people would have a lot of different opinions on that, I think. Because you could just get a Toriko from the end of the series. You could get like maybe Acacia if we're going to go in that direction. Actually, there are quite a few options depending on how you want to look at the... I mean, because it might not be Densetsu. It might not be Legend. It might not be Muso, which is like peerless. It might be something else. And in which case, who we pick would be different as well. So, I'm not too sure, but we shall see. And then, down here, versus units. I want to see versus units as the next sort of new type of unit they introduce. I've chosen a few series here where I felt like a versus unit would work, and if they wanted to introduce, say, for example, a new Naruto and Sasuke, but they're fighting each other. I know we sort of already had that, but you could introduce that. There are a few other series here that would work with. One Piece is obviously one of the big ones, because if you look at One Piece Treasure Cruise, they've done it a whole bunch of times. But I would like to either have versus unit or have like team units, like triple units, however you want to look at it, which would have made a lot of sense for Sket Dance, like a triple unit. But, you know, definitely you could have like Luffy, Ace, and Sabo, or something like that. So that'd be pretty cool. Then moving on to later. Later is unspecified. Doesn't necessarily mean these units and these series and this whatever are coming in April. It could be any time before the next anniversary, basically, before the 6.5. So I've listed 3 series that I feel like are deserving of feature festivals. You may disagree, but I don't really care that much, because I know I'm right. This time, I know I'm right. First off, I've chosen Kinnikuman. I am biased. Yes, I love Kinnikuman. But Kinnikuman has a new anime coming out by, you know, maybe April, May next year. That may well be actually on TV screens. People may actually be watching it. And so, I would like them to do some more Kinnikuman content. You know, some of these series, there's like questionable situations where it's like, or maybe we can't do this series anymore because of this or because of that. We haven't touched this in a while. Is it because the devs have changed the deal? I don't know. But we had Kinnikuman Soldier earlier this year, which leads me to believe that we will be okay and we'll be able to do Kinnikuman content. And I would love to see it. Then, Fist of the North Star. I know I mentioned it in the last video, and I'm going to mention it again. It has a new anime project coming up. This year is like the 40th anniversary. To me, I feel like you need to do a feature festival. You need to do it right. So much content not included. Definitely worth covering. And then finally, Hoshinengi. I mentioned this earlier. If a series deserves a Muso, you've decided that and you've given them a Muso, you should give it a proper feature festival after that. There's plenty of content to cover. Please get on that. Then in terms of other stuff, new series. I've said this before. What I want is new series. I've listed some here. Assuming Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man are off the table, Witch Watch, Blue Box, Akane Banashi, and Mission Yozakura Family are all series I'd love to see. I think in particular I look to Witch Watch. If we are going to be covering Sket Dance, that means that the author is okay with their content being in Jumputi. Witch Watch is made by the same author. So, by that logic, this manga, which is also in Weekly Shonen Jump, should have no problem appearing in the game. The others, who knows? But at least for Witch Watch, I don't see any reason there should be a problem. And then to finish it off, the Olympics. Now, one thing you may have forgotten or maybe just didn't care to remember, but there is one particular character in Kochikame who was added to the game, and that is Neruo. They only appeared in the manga basically every time the Olympics was on. It only worked as a gag because the manga went on for so long, but Jumputi has reached a point where they added Neruo, and now the Olympics is next year, 2024. So we have an opportunity to revisit it. I am not suggesting a Kochikame event necessarily for the Olympics. Maybe, but some Kochikame content and maybe some sports-related series would be good. And bring back Neruo. And that is my roadmap. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know some of the series you would like to see. And, you know, if you hate it, just tell me you hate it. That's fine too. But that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think I'll be seeing you quite soon. Whenever these leaks come out. But until then, see you guys next time.